So this is the second part of my spotlight session on maps and atlases. The second of the atlases that I got out in the first part was a bit of a mystery, and the book that I want to show you today is, in this part is also a bit of a mystery. This is very different. This is a book which I'm guessing is unique since it's hand-drawn, and again it's one that we don't really know much about, so I shall show you this. It's to do with military history, clearly. Again, not in brilliant condition, but it's okay. So on the what counts as a title page, we've got just handwritten plans of fortifications, etc. I assume that's etc. It's something like that. And then very lightly in pencil, there's another message there, which I've tried to read, and it's quite difficult to read. I think what it says is this book to be re-something, and then it says Bromley House, something 12th, 1852. So we've got a date, the 12th of a month in 1852, something to be done to this book in 1852, but we don't know what. That's all we have in the way of title page. So again, we don't have a date for the production of the book, we don't have anybody's name as author or illustrator on it. But the book itself is very interesting, because what it contains is hand drawings of military defences and various kind of attributes of military maps. So it includes fortifications as designed by Vauban. And Vauban was Sébastien Le Prestre, Marquis de Vauban, who lived from 1633 to 1707. And he was a military engineer. And he came up with various principles for fortifications, including these kind of star-shaped bastion forts. And the intention of these sorts of forts was to tire out attackers who were laying siege to a town. They worked on the assumption that any fort would eventually fall, that no fort was impregnable, but that the longer you could hold out against the attacking enemy, the more time there was for A, them to tire out and potentially leave, and B, for reinforcements to arrive to relieve the town. So there are these kinds of forts have these sort of sacrificial areas, which, if they were breached, there was still a second line of defence behind them. So this book includes drawings of various elements and various types of the Vauban fortifications, including elevations, which was the word I was looking for in the last part of this spotlight session and couldn't remember. And they're quite beautiful. They're really, I mean, obviously, in terms of their accuracy of the drawing, they're quite impressive, but also with the colouring, they are very beautiful. And there is one which states the second system of Vauban, newly constructed by Vauban at Landau and Belfort, which, were this an original book, would suggest that it was written and drawn during Vauban's lifetime or just afterwards. However, there are other things in here which suggest that it isn't, which gives maybe something of a clue towards the possible function of this book, which I'll come back to in a bit. So once we get beyond the rather lovely drawings of the various fortifications, we then come to a section, oh no, that's another fortification, sorry. We come to a section which includes map elements. So this is about how you draw different types of troops if you're drawing a battle plan or similar. And there are sections then on drawing buildings, which are rather lovely. I rather like this little bit. And drawing elevations of hills and so on, geographical features, which is all very lovely. And this kind of comes to a culmination in this page here. Now this page is titled Report on the Road from Trujillo to Mérida, reconnoitred 1st of May 1809. So obviously this is a map that was first produced in 1809, which is a long time after Vauban's death. So this again suggests that this wasn't created during his lifetime, which therefore suggests that these things are probably copies. But this page is quite interesting. It has the map with the various roads, the towns named. It also has information about the different bits of the map. And I looked up the area. So we've got Mérida here, and we have the Guadiana River, which indicates that this was in Spain. So this is a printout from Google Earth with Mérida here, and this is the Guadiana River. So the orientation of this is clearly different from the orientation here, and that's indicated as well by the fact that the north arrow is pointing down to there. So I twisted it round a bit and came up with this. So here's Mérida. Obviously on the map here, it's on the north side, sorry, it's actually the south side, but it's above the river, so I've twisted it so the river goes up here as it does there. I can't find Trujillo anywhere on this map, but with the indication of the hills and valleys and things, it looks as though this is the area that's being talked about in this map here, and it is relatively accurate in terms of how it's been drawn. So the original of this, reconnoitred 1809, that would have been during the Spanish Peninsular War, when Spain and Portugal and Britain were fighting against Napoleonic France. Napoleon had tried to, well, he had invaded and had conquered Spain, and this was the Allied forces of Spain, Portugal and Britain were trying to oust him. So this was a large military campaign. This is exactly the sort of time when these sorts of maps would have been useful for the troops. So in order to try and work out what this book actually is, and looking at what's in it, I've had to make quite a few guesses. But these appear to be copies of other things. They appear to be almost like samples of how you draw different types of military map, different types of military fortifications. So I wonder whether this is either a book for teaching military cartography or a kind of exercise book from someone who was learning military cartography. But that's just been my guess. So if anyone has any other thoughts or anything that they could suggest to help us to understand this better, I would be really interested to hear it. So thank you.